Good morning. How are you today? I believe most of us are still processing what we witnessed on Wednesday, the very sad and unfortunate event. I even never imagined that I'll be watching something like that in my lifetime. It was confusing and it was sad. I actually feel like there are two pandemics going on in this country, or maybe in the world. One that is physical, and the other that is psychological and spiritual. And both of them are very dangerous and critical if you become infected. Today, I invite you into this worship in meditation. It's not about putting aside things that concern you, but in a way, practice of meditation is about bringing calmness and clarity to mind so that we can look at matters deeply, clearly, and also objectively, and sort out what actually matters at the moment where we are. So I hope you join this moment to this particular service today with that in mind. And now we have the wise word from our wise man, John Gao.
The beauty of living is here and now. We'll get through life's problems somehow. Face life with a smile. Keep it on for a while. The beauty of living is here and now.
Let us create a space around us and within us. Let us make a space for the divine to be present. Let us awake our mind to acknowledge that God is present with us always. And may this be indeed the day that the Lord has created, and let us rejoice and be glad in it. Today, I would like to invite you to reflect upon three questions. One, what does it mean to be a human? Two, what does it mean to be a Christian? And three, what does it mean to be a spiritual being? One of my hobby and favorite thing to do is to read ancient books, ancient stories, myth and legend, and also stories that is written by ancient people and translated into the modern language. One thing that I find that's very fascinating from reading all this is what our ancestors worked on very hard to distinguish themselves from being just animals. They wanted to establish a statement, a quality, that being a human is indeed different from being an animal. And this is quite clear without any religious references. Either it's emphasis on intelligence or virtuous qualities. There is emphasis that being a human is different from being an animal. If you are Christian from the Bible, the meaning of being a human comes from the creation, the way how you are created. You became human because you are made by God in the image and likeness of divine. You became vessel into which divine can flow in. And what does it mean to you to be a Christian? Many people claim they're Christians. They proudly show Jesus saves, or in God we trust. Does it all work that way? If someone claims to be Christian, does that person simply become Christian? Being religious means less about claiming it, but much more about believing it, and even more about living by the principle that is taught by the religion. And being spiritual, I have listened many times that because we're spirit or spiritual beings, everything we do could be considered as spiritual. Actually, answer to that is no. Why? Consider this. Just like heaven is in a spiritual realm, hell also is in a spiritual realm. The activities related to spirit are not spiritual. Being spiritual requires inner cultivation. This inner cultivation means having many moments of inner conflicts, fights within, which are called as spiritual temptations. Making myself constantly better, not in terms of any human standard, but in the sight of God, meaning getting closer to God. So there are three questions. What does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to be a Christian? And what does it mean to be a spiritual being? And I ask you to reflect upon these questions and find the answers within yourself. What are your answers? Not about some other people telling you and you like that answer. No. What are your answers to those questions? Because that's what matters. And I invite you to reflect upon it with meditation, with music that follows. Today we have Susan Lucas joined us, and she's going to read the scriptures.
There is a lot of Abrahamic history in this story. According to Genesis, Jacob and his brothers are the great-grandsons of Abraham and Sarah, descendants of their son Isaac. The Ishmaelites, important participants in this story, are said to be the numerous descendants of Ishmael, who was the son of Abraham with Sarah's maidservant Hagar. Ishmaelites are believed to have lived in northern Arabia. Joseph sets out to join his brothers pasturing their sheep, and they are at some distance. Shechem is at least 50 miles north of the Hebron Valley, and Dothan is even farther. So Joseph had a good way to go to join them. This is a fateful day in the young life of Joseph. Genesis 37, verses 12 through 28. Now his brothers went to pasture their father's flock near Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, Israel being his father, Jacob, are not your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. He answered, Here I am. So he said to him, Go now, see if it is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring word back to me. So he sent him from the valley of Hebron. Joseph came to Shechem, and a man found him wandering in the fields. The man asked him, What are you seeking? I'm seeking my brothers, he said. Tell me, please, where they are pasturing the flock. The man said, They have gone away, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan, even farther on north. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him from a distance, and before he came near to them, they conspired to kill him. They said to one another, Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we shall say that a wild animal has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. But when Reuben heard it, the eldest brother, he said, He delivered him out of their hands, saying, Let us not take his life. Reuben said, Shed no blood, just throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but lay no hand on him, that he might rescue him out of their hand and restore him to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the cloak of many colors, the long robe with sleeves that he wore, and they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty, there was no water in it. Then they sat down to eat. Looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, with their camels carrying gum, balm, and resin on their way to carry it down to Egypt. Then Judah said to his brothers, What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and not lay our hands on him, for he is our brother, our own flesh. His brothers agreed. When some Midianite traders passed by, they drew Joseph up, lifting him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. From Luke, from Jesus' life, Luke 9, 37, 45. On the next day, when they had come down from the mountain, a great crowd met him. Just then, a man from the crowd shouted, "Teacher, I beg you to look at my son. He is my only child." Suddenly, a spirit seizes him, and all at once he shrieks. It throws him into convulsions, and he foams at the mouth. It mauls him and will scarcely leave him. I begged your disciples to cast it out, but they could not. Jesus answered, speaking to his disciples, "You faithless and perverse generation, how much longer must I be with you and bear with you? Bring your son here." While he was coming, the demon dashed him to the ground in convulsions, but Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, healed the boy, and gave him back to his father. And all were astounded at the greatness of God. While everyone was amazed at all that he was doing, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let these words sink into your ears. The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into human hands." But they did not understand this saying. Its meaning was concealed from them, so they could not perceive it, and they were afraid to ask him about this saying.
Thank you, Susan. Life of Joseph just changed. Before this very faithful day, Joseph was living as the favorite of his father, Jacob. And we could say he had a wonderful life. He also was known as the dreamer, gifted by God, having those dreams. Joseph and Jesus shares one thing that's very similar. They were both betrayed by those who are very close to them. And also they were sold by silver coins. In Joseph's case, 20 pieces. In Jesus' case, 30 pieces. Joseph probably had all the reasons to be upset, to be angry, to be frustrated, even pour out his rage. However, what we can learn from Joseph is that he didn't do any of those. That's amazing. He was only 17 when he was sold as a slave. But we'll be reading about it, but Joseph never shows any signs of being lost in the negative side of his life. He shows no anger. He shows none of those. Instead, he kept his faithfulness to his God, and he kept his integrity as a human. And thus, he was able to bring the best of himself, gaining favor wherever he goes. And at the end, he became the prime minister of Egypt and saves not only all those Egyptians from the 7 horrible and terrible famine, but also his own family. How was Joseph able to do that? I often hear and see, even I have been gone through that path, that using what happened to me, what hurted me, as an excuse to express my anger. I was hurt, therefore you should be hurt too. And in America, something that confuses me quite a lot. I talked about the pursuit of happiness, but also there's something about freedom of speech. That to me is quite off the line somehow. I can't really grasp what that really means, even. If I put it into the context of 1776, all those white gentlemen who are businessmen, who are property owners, who are not really trusting each other, therefore insisting that I have to have my right to speak out my opinion, to protect my property and my rights from you guys. That I could understand. But in this 2021, 21st century, freedom of speech, and I have seen that being abused so many times. How come publicly lying is okay, even by the president? How come publicly stating hate word that influences so many people, especially even children, in such a negative way is okay? I'm not trying to be a politician here or any political opinion here. What I'm trying to share connects to the three questions I laid out. What does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to be a Christian? And what does it mean to be a spiritual being? One thing that ancient people, both East and the West, cared so much and put so much weight and responsibility on, that is the importance of speech, the word that we speak. The word that we speak matters. In a way, no one should have freedom of speech. We all should have responsibility of speech. Because the word we speak out, that's the one that could hurt others the most. Of course, at the same time, the word we speak out could bring comfort, inspiration, courage, and joy. The words, according to Swedenborg, are actually expression of your desire, inner desire. What we have within is processed through our thoughts and finalized in our words. And if you check Matthew or Gospels, Jesus talks a lot about that too. What you say is important. And in John, God created the world by the Word, His own Word. So what we say is not only expression of our desire and thoughts, it is actually finalizing and realizing. It creates its own reality and brings consequences. It is very important what we say and how we say it and when we say it. And this Joseph's story is so amazing. We'll continue with his journey, so I'll save some stories for later. But let us again remember that he kept his faithfulness to his God, even when he was sold by his own brothers as a slave. And instead of crying out, "It's so unfair, not right, I'm abandoned," being angry, he kept his integrity, meaning humility, honesty, and trustfulness. That enabled him to gain the favor of the people he was meeting. So, what is your integrity as a human that you want to keep, regardless of any situation that you are in? I'm asking that because essentially it has to come out from our own inner self. What is my integrity? What are my principles? Jesus was betrayed. He knew he was going to be betrayed. He mentions it a few times. But ministry of Jesus was always what? Focusing on teaching people, healing people, comforting people. He was never lost into that emotional challenge and hurt that he was going to be betrayed by his own disciples. We do have many painful moments, many hurts, many things that happen to us, many cry outs that we want to do, unfair, not right. Probably the focus is not about trying to resolve all that and challenge that and restore that and equal it out, but trying to overcome them and have our focus on what is true and what is essential. And as Joseph did, bring out the best that is within, regardless of our situation. So I would like to invite you in reflection with the music that will follow. Simply reflect upon yourself and the presence of the divine within you and around you. And look into your heart. Again, what makes you to be who you are? That which is special and unique and lovable being before God. Okay, let us take a moment in reflection. In Buddhistic tradition, the flower they honor and love is the lotus flower, which is from actually Buddha. And lotus flowers, probably still true, but they used to blossom, or you can find them in a very muddy pond. Not a clear ones, the ones that looks quite dirty. If you go to the bottom of it, which you probably don't want to, it's very dark and very muddy and unclean. Out of such unclean, dark, and muddiness, this plant comes up all the way to the surface of water and gives out this flower that is beautiful. In a sense, that's the symbolism of how Buddhist or Buddha wants to describe as human life supposed to be. The situation we're put in at birth may be like the bottom of this very unclean, muddy pond, which is filled with uncertainty and darkness, and even unfairness. We sort things out. We do our best to put the best of ourselves, overcoming many challenges, psychological, emotional, physical, social, political. And if we persevere and endure, we could reach to the surface and put out this beautiful flower. That is exactly what Jesus meant by, in my understanding, to be born again. To be born of spirit and fire. To assume and to have a higher, elevated identity and state of being. Now, I'd like to invite you a moment of meditation with the sound of gong. I am going to sound it 6 times and ask you to simply listen to the sound and let it come and let it go, emptying yourself. Now let us take a moment of being in silence. Embrace the silence around us and within you. And simply be present. Now let us turn our minds into a mindful offering. We have received many gifts and blessings from our God. And we are definitely willing to give something back to God to be used in a way that is bringing the will of God to be actual and real in this world. So let us take a moment and reflect upon what portion I have and I'm willing to offer as my gift.
Don't be afraid, my love is stronger. My love is stronger than your fear. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger, and I have promised to be always near. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger. My love is stronger than your fear. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger, and I have promised to be always near. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger. My love is stronger than your fear. Don't be afraid, my love is stronger, and I have promised to be always near.
May the Lord, our Creator, bless you and keep you. May the Lord fill your heart with the love that is from heaven, and your mind with angelic wisdom, and your body with loving and kind actions, from now on forevermore. Amen.